Good evening, everyone, and welcome to IDG Chit Chat Live, the week of March 7th, 2016. Today, we will be talking about the final episode of Finding Your Roots, Relative Race, and the premiere of Long Lost Family. So I hope you are all ready. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shannon Combs-Bennett. I'm the creative director for the In-Depth Genealogist. Joining me this evening are Jen Alford, our publisher, Terry O'Connell, executive director, and our guests Cheryl Passy of Carolina Girl and Melissa Baker, professional genealogist and archivist. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the show.
Hey,
Hello.
good to be here.
Yay! We finally made it.
Yay, we're here.
It's been one of those days for everybody. So if you're having one of those days, just know so have we. So we have a jam-packed episode once again this evening. Oh gosh, lots and lots of stuff, lots of genealogy TV. One's dropping off, others are picking up. So let's see here. Why don't we start with tonight with Relative Race. It's the second episode from BYUtv. Is that right, ladies?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, anyone have any comments? It seems that the participants are a bit more interested in the research of their families, so that's nice.
And a little cranky this time. Some of them were a little cranky.
The reality portion of reality TV is showing through, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say this episode wasn't as good as the first because it was really all about. It just seems like it's all about the race part, as opposed to we want to see the family part.
Yeah, I think it's a, unfortunately with entertainment, it's one of those delicate balances. And maybe it's because it's the first year and they will see how the edits go and the feedback and see what happens. But maybe it's also a way to get a different, I don't want to say genre of people, but you know what I mean, a interested in family history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it definitely was cool, though, because as they were meeting their families, it was like, okay, wait, stop, tell me again. I know who that person is, but how does your person connect to that person?
Right.
Okay, wait, stop, tell me again. There were some, it looked like they probably had maybe 10 conversations before it clicked.
Well, and sometimes that happens with even the best of us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I definitely would have liked to have seen, more interaction on the family part as opposed to the driving and we can't get out of this place and we're lost yet again.
That would be the genealogist in you, not the person who likes to watch reality TV, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all up for a good road trip, but watching somebody else's road trip from my couch is not entertaining.
Anybody else have any comments of it?
I didn't get to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm like Terry. The race part. I kind of wish they would not do the race part.
Or at least
just go visit family members would be fine with me,
Don't show me how they got there, darn it. Just show me what happens when they start speaking, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. So who got to see Long Lost Family, which premiered this week? I have some comments here about it, but does anybody want to start? I guess there were two stories this time, yes?
Yes.
I'm just making. Sometimes you watch so many things, they start blending together. You have to just make sure you're recalling the correct information.
Right, exactly.
So let's see here. This one, both of them were born in California, correct? Yes. No.
I know one was.
Okay. And then both stories were about moms who didn't want to give up the children, but did.
Right.
Yeah.
They were heartbreaking stories.
Right.
Yeah.
You need tissues to watch the show.
Yes.
Definitely.
Oh.
I sat there like this in bed crying.
I'm not crying.
Yeah. My husband kept looking at me, and I'm like sniffling and stuff, and he's just shaking his head. He's like, "Why don't you want to watch something that makes you cry?" And I'm like, "You don't understand."
Sometimes you just need a good cry, and it's good to get it by doing something else.
Did you get to see? see the show, Sherry? Oh, I'm sorry, Jen.
I didn't get to see that one.
Okay.
I was going to say, you know, one of the things that I liked about it was that, unlike in some adoption stories, you know, in both cases, the children were, you know, they're adults. They really were just like, I want them to know I'm okay, that they made the right choice. You know, all of the things that, like, as a person giving up a child, you would be, that's exactly what you'd worry about. And, you know, you'd be wondering, you know, am I doing the right thing and all that. So it was really kind of, you know, heartwarming to see just the reactions and, you know, the amount of care that went between the child and the parent and the concern for each other.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely the whole concern of wanting each other to know that they were good. It was different than the, you know, I'm adopted, so I just need to know who I am. It's my right. I have a right to know. It was, the heart was involved in both sides of each of the stories, and they both turned out, you know, luckily very well.
Right.
Hopefully it will continue. It'll continue that way, hopefully, with all these other stories. But, of course, with the few stories that we're going to see this season, how are they really showing us all the ones that came back negative?
Right, that's one of the things I was wondering. I was like, are they just going to gloss over it? Or are they going to show, like, you know, the cases where you might find the you know, the birth mother, but she doesn't want to meet you.
Right.
And
Melissa, did you get to see it too?
Yes. Yeah. You had to have issues with that one too, I think. But yeah, I'm waiting to see the same thing. I'm waiting to see if they show any rejections or anything. And I was glad to see that people want to see, you know, their real parents because of the reason.
Yeah,
you know.
I really liked the young man when he got all his information. He says, "I'm so sorry to hear that my father just up and left her like that. That must have been so difficult." Like, you could just see the empathy that he felt for his mother, just within that moment of finding, you know, the whole story out.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what comes. Though the only thing that, like, I made a big note is they made it seem so simple.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
especially the California one. It was okay. We're going to consult the, you know, California Birth Index, and now we'll go and look.
So we're having some technical issues. I'm sorry about that, everyone. My computer literally stopped and turned itself off.
Oh.
So I had to turn it back on.
Okay.
It doesn't like you today.
No. I've decided after this I am going to pour myself a drink and I will be doing something else.
That sounds
Understandable. Understandable.
Watch some TV, do something else. So yeah, but I hope we've all discussed Long Lost Family now.
Yeah. There's not a lot to discuss with it, so I think we've hit it all.
Okay. Well, why don't we move on then to finding your roots and see. Oh gosh, I had a box of tissues with me.
Oh my
They start crying. I start crying. They start crying. I start crying. Oh my gosh.
Dustin Hoffman's really he's breaking down
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that he was trending on Facebook the next day over it.
I know.
I don't think we've ever trended on anything.
No.
With genealogy, so that was awesome.
It was kind of awesome.
Even if the mom had to cry to do it.
Yeah.
He made some real profound statements, I thought.
Right. I thought so too.
At the very beginning, and I don't remember if it was him or if it was just said, but they said that they were haunted by mysterious silences in their past. And I thought, boy, don't we all have some of those?
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
you know, when he started out and they showed him, you know, his grandfather, and he looked at the name and he was very honest and he said, I see this and I see the name, but it means nothing to me. But then when they got to the story at the end, it was the story. It wasn't the name. It wasn't the date. It was the story. And I was actually talking to my oldest son about that today because he's been trying to do some genealogy. And he said the same thing. He says, I see these names and the dates and they don't mean anything. And I said, go read my blog. Get the stories. So, yes. The stories is what makes you get attached to them, not just the name and date. So by the end, he was attached, and he felt it, and he felt them, and he was grateful to know them.
Right. No, I completely agree. I sometimes think a lot of people that maybe where you get the glazed over look from some friends, family, or whatever when you're talking, if you just start talking about, oh, and this person and this person and this person, they could care less. It's a name on a piece of paper. There is no visceral connection to make them attached to them or feel about them. It's kind of like with Mia, where she had the one opinion of her grandfather, and then by the end of it, she had completely changed her thoughts and viewpoints and feelings. And I think that the more you find out, and the more you realize they're just more than names, dates, and places, the better it is. So, yeah. But I can't believe they found Russian papers from. Hi, everyone. Don't you love technology? We are full of gremlins this evening, so you are getting to watch a twofer episode. If we can't figure out how to merge these together, I'm sorry for the little lapse there. But I think we're all back on track, and we had just finished talking about, or starting to talk about, where his great-grandmother was living in Chicago. Who was the family? Because I don't remember them saying in the episode.
I don't remember it either, and that was my thought.
Yeah, I don't either.
Oh, God, 3 people talking at once. Terry.
That was one of the things. I saved it because there are a few things I wanted to go back and grab out of it. Like they gave addresses. They showed a cemetery plot. I want to kind of just see where that was. And then I, too, was like, where was she? Did the family know she was there?
Right, because, I did quick math. And Dustin Hoffman is just a few years older than my father, which meant he and his parents were living in Hollywood, because he was born in Hollywood, right? So that means they were there in the 30s, because he was born in the mid to early 1930s. And she didn't die until the late 1940s.
And she didn't get there till the 30s. She didn't come until the 30s.
Right.
So he may not have ever known that she was there. He
may not
didn't.
Right, so if his father had cut off all connection with Chicago, they might have, passed each other and but to imagine, like, I want to know when his mother died or his grandmother, Yeah. If she's suing the Soviets in the 1920s.
That was awesome.
Brave woman.
So yeah, I'm hoping maybe they were able to figure some of that out.
Maybe that's what I'll be doing tomorrow.
Woohoo, Terry, you go, girl. Okay, so that was a new. I know it was another Jewish episode, which I think we've talked about Jewish ancestry now, or a portion of Jewish genealogy in all but 2 episodes out of the 10.
I was telling my husband, I said, this is one of the few seasons that it's been like mostly Jewish people, and it's like these are my people, and I said, it's interesting, what a mix of people he's getting, that there's so much Jewish background. And the African American background. I said, well, it's all the celebrities and all the stars. They're all Jews,
That's totally what my father said. And I'm like, Dad, you can't say that out loud anymore.
I know it is so wrong, but it made me laugh. I was just like, oh well.
But
I did really enjoy, Dustin getting to find out the story of, his grandfather and great-grandfather, and, what a story for his, grandfather to have gone back and such tragedy. I had a feeling as soon as they said that he went back, I was like, I don't think he's going to make it home.
Bad choice.
It's not a bright thing to do.
Yeah, but we all do dumb things for our family in certain instances.
Of course.
Well, and at the end he was saying, in our families we hide the bad people. We want to hide the murderers. We want to hide all these. Why are we hiding the heroes?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really touching. Why are we hiding the heroes?
Yeah. Of course, I think a lot of that was the time, possibly. It's
I think so.
The sensibilities and what you did and did not talk about, and the don't worry as yourself. Oh my God, I sound like my grandmother now. But
But it's true.
It's true, and lost so much of it because we just don't talk about that.
They died. We don't talk about it. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And especially if the grandmother was so upset that she's suing Russia over the death because he left, and she probably told him, "Don't go."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that the whole house is like it's cut off, and her energy is put into, well, now she's talking to lawyers to sue Russia.
I did notice that they said the suit was never settled.
Yes.
Right.
I'm thinking, are you going to take that up? No.
I know. Who will finish this now?
Yeah, I come from a family who had a 150-year lawsuit against the United States, so
Oh my God. We should
talk
talk about that someday. That's interesting.
It's my New Netherlands ancestry.
Oh.
The descendants of one of them sued because Manhattan was taken from them and never given back.
Oh.
So you own Manhattan.
One of my ancestors owned a large section of Manhattan. Yes.
I think you should go after that.
Yeah. Me too.
Me and how many thousands of descendants?
Yes.
That's all right.
The land was seized in the mid-1700s by the British, and then the Americans took it over. And the American we're getting off track, but that's a whole other story. Yeah. But but Mia, I thought, of course, I have to bring up Mia Farrow because my father's like, I just love her mother.
Okay, well, first of all, can we start? I had no clue about her background.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Like, I knew about Woody. That was it, okay?
Yeah, my dad remembers going and seeing Tarzan.
Oh, wow.
When it was like a dime for a movie with his brothers when they were kids.
Cool.
Yeah, my dad's an old fart.
Well, I had no clue, so that was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
To see the connection, and I don't know. Okay, Tarzan, that was cool.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see that she brought the kids, at
back
least
to Ireland.
To Ireland. I was gonna go there, right?
I know. In County Cork, I caught that. I thought that was nice. That even though she left home at 19 to go to Hollywood, she still kept. I mean, it's almost a complete difference between her and Dustin Hoffman. The generations.
Mm-hmm.
One family went to Hollywood and cut all ties. One family went to Hollywood but still went back to visit and kept in touch with everybody, with their roots and their heritage to a certain extent.
What a great amount of information they had on her family with the wars and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Grandfather getting injured and going back and noticed that the brother-in-law was trying to save her grandfather, and that's how he was killed. And,
I know.
It's before they even said that. I knew it. I was like, oh, he did it.
Yeah. The way Professor Gates set it up, I was like, this is not going to end pleasantly.
Yeah. But I was just impressed with all the information that they found and not even having to look at the normal church records and they didn't really go back super far.
Yeah.
But still.
I think a lot of it has to do though because it was military records.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an officer.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have probably been able to find that easily through the British archives.
Right.
Because it was before Ireland's before it broke away,
Yes.
before the Civil War. So that probably helped, being a famous regiment and that he was an officer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that helped.
I'm sure it did.
Because no, that wasn't him. Maybe, who was they had her read a passage of a first-hand account, and
That was her grandfather's.
I thought that was because it said he was a lieutenant colonel, but I thought they said in the beginning that he was a captain, so I got really confused.
Maybe he was lieutenant colonel when he wrote it.
That could be.
Right.
Could be.
But yeah, it was him. It's an amazing story to.
Yeah, and I'm sure we only got the tip of the iceberg.
Of course. Of course.
There was one thing that Mia said that I understand it, but it really made me sad. And she said that she downplays the ancestors with her adopted children, meaning their ancestors. And I understand that maybe it would not be very easy for them to trace their ancestors, but maybe now after this she won't downplay them as much, because I think she meant that before, that she always had. And so I kind of was like, oh, don't do that,
I'm like, how long of a conversation did you have with Cece? But, I have to admit I've been talking, I have quite a number of friends who are adopted. Some of them have decided to take DNA tests just because they're curious about their ethnicity, and they decided to do like the 23andMe thing because they just for, I don't want to say what going through my head, but for fun and giggles, but they do not want to connect with anybody. They're like, I was given up for a reason. I'm 40, 50, 60 years old. Whatever. I am not actively seeking out anybody. I don't want to know that part of my family. I'm doing this now because it's cheap and it's a giggle on the weekend, And then I have
them for being confident enough in their life that they don't have to know.
Right, because then it was interesting. A couple weeks ago, I was listening to one woman say this at one side of the table, and at the other side of the table was a woman who's like, "Well, I want to know. I love my adopted parents to death, and they raised me, and they're my mom and dad. But maybe I have siblings or aunts and uncles, or maybe they did something cool with their lives, and blah blah blah." And it was interesting to hear the two different points of view from two different adults who have really thought about it.
Right.
And it could come from the reasons of adoption as well, because I've got adoptive children, and most of mine was not the mom just couldn't raise me. They were taken out of dangerous situations.
Right. And I'm sure that has a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference, a totally different scenario, and you think you could be getting yourself back into those dangerous situations by finding out.
That's true.
Right.
This is probably something people don't think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it just to me stresses the importance of you shouldn't force your opinion on someone else.
Absolutely.
If you are an adopted person, and you want to find out, fantastic.
Absolutely. More power to you.
Right. If you don't want to find out, that's okay.
That's okay
You're obviously
too.
like who you are. Right. Because here's another instance. Because, so many people, they say, like they have such wonderful reunion stories they put on TV, right?
Yeah.
I was having lunch with a friend a couple weeks ago whose grandfather was, let's just say, he liked the ladies. And her mother, who's about the same age as my dad, so they're both in their 70s, about 3 years ago, a woman called her out of the blue and said, I'm your half-sister. I'm so happy to talk to you, sister, and kept using that word over and over and over again, and how, I want to get to know who my father was. And her mother was just like, no, you're not my sister. You happen to share a father. You don't want to know who he was. Don't ever contact me again. And, and she's never regretted saying that to the woman, and the woman's never called her back. And she's like, my father wasn't necessarily an up-and-up person. But you have to respect the other person, too. Maybe they don't want to. I think it's a slippery slope, and now we've gone off into controversies.
I have a friend in a similar situation, and I mean, the father left, got remarried, had a whole other family, and he kept his two families separate.
Oh, wow.
And the younger family is now reaching out and wanting to make connections, and that person feels like what you said, sister,
Yeah.
our father. And we've had long talks about it, and I've said, well, I said, technically, it is our father. You know, you just don't see it because it wasn't the house you were raised in.
Right.
You didn't have that connection, but for all sakes and purposes, yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So you just have to, I think on both sides have to be very careful on how you approach it. I mean, if the person probably came in and did it very slightly instead of overkill on that sister word,
I think
it might have gone completely different.
Right. You know, I kind of think that would have been, I totally blame the woman for being overly excited. I mean, I can understand why she would be overly excited, especially, I don't know obviously how long she'd searched or how she found her, but to get a phone call from a stranger who every other word is like, I can't wait to meet you. And she's like, no. Yeah.
So Sherry, I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer, but I'm curious now because Mia did bring it up, and about her kids and how she doesn't focus on the ancestor. With you being the genealogist in the family, how do you handle that with your children?
It's hard. It is hard, but for most of them, I don't know. I don't have any information for them. They would have to go the DNA route if they chose to do that. But, and we just talk about perhaps maybe this is not the time or life to meet them because these were dangerous situations these children were taken out of. We were threatened. They were threatened. Who's to say that situation is not the same if they were to find these families again? So
personally, I mean, and not being in this situation, the thing that kind of bothered me about the way that Mia said it is there was a defining line between what the family was. Now, as an outsider and not having any adoptions, I'm looking at this saying, but those are their ancestors because you are their mother.
True. True. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's hard because I would never want them to deny that. My issue is just safety. That's my issue. It's not denying any of that, but it's just safety.
And it has to be.
Absolutely.
And that's a totally different circumstance than a person who goes in and gets, a mutual adoption or, whatever. So.
Did anyone else notice, Mia, when, I'm thinking she's the right one, that when she found out what her grandfather did to her grandmother? Is it her that put her in the insane asylum?
For postpartum depression?
Yes. And Mia's face when she found that out, and then you could just see immediately she started hating that man.
Yes.
Oh, she vocalized it too.
Yes. Until she saw a picture of him.
Yes. And then she said it made him human.
Yes. Yeah. And then she found out more about him, and then she said, I guess we shouldn't judge people based on their time and their circumstances and what we would have done today. And I was like, yes, exactly.
So I had the same scenario in my family. I think I mentioned it one other time about my great-grandmother. Her husband did the same thing, had her committed to an insane asylum because he wanted to be with another woman. And she was there for, she was there for 15 years. And, and the whole family knew it. And you can look at the records to see he married this other woman like 10 days after she was put into the insane asylum.
So it was obviously the reason she did it.
Very obvious. Very obvious, So when she talked about, when that came up, I thought, I can relate to that because I know my own family story.
And they got some good hospital records too.
I was surprised by that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was hoping
detailing how she would just lie there and what her attitude was. I thought that was very interesting. They could get that much.
When you can find good hospital records, they're good.
Yeah.
It's finding them is the part.
Is the problem.
Yes.
Of course, when they yes. of course, when they talked about how the same gentleman, her great grandfather, went to, or her grandfather, it was her grandfather, yes, went to, was part of the Gallipoli campaign, I was like, oh my God, was he part of the charge of the Light Brigade? Because, and I kept waiting for them to say that he didn't make it, because that, if you, sorry, that was just the historian in me is going, oh, that's just a bad thing. Because you all know about what happened, right? Do you guys not know about this?
I do not know.
No.
Okay.
I just know.
So this
Give us a lesson.
So this is when I tell you that when I was in 7th grade, I had to watch this film with this really cute young Mel Gibson in it. Called I think it's called The Charge of the Light Brigade, but it's about that time. So the Australians were in Turkey during World War I, and in the Galapagos area, you know what I'm trying to say. Yes, and the Turks, who they were fighting against, were in fortified trenches and structures. And they literally sent, because World War I was one of those turning points for military history, because a lot of the time they were trying to fight it the old way.
Right.
But you now have machine guns and tanks. So the old way of sending wave upon wave upon wave of person to eventually overwhelm the enemy and break through a line no longer works against machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally sent 40,000 people, wave after wave after wave of people to try to break through these fortified lines. It didn't work, if you can tell. So yeah, it was a massacre. Few survived. And it's one of those campaigns that military historians point out, along with, for Civil War buffs, the Battle of Fredericksburg, as a huge blunder. What you should not do in warfare. So, yeah. But, yeah, young Mel Gibson, there's a scene where you get to see his butt.
Oh, I'm definitely getting that movie.
Look at that one.
I remember my parents had to sign a permission slip for me to see it, so.
That's too funny.
But yeah, he was extremely, extremely lucky. Because this is Shannon. I am full of useless knowledge. Anyway.
That's not useless for.
I know. My dad, the history teacher, would be so proud. But yeah, I was really surprised. And of course, I don't think they said, I don't ever remember them saying that her father was Australian. And then they're like, and we followed his Australian line. I was like, he came to the United States from Australia? Oh, wonder how that happened.
I think they skipped around a lot on hers without really connecting. Because they just rolled up. And you know what else they didn't do? And I'm going to change this really quick. There was no DNA segment.
No,
there wasn't.
Hello, they're all white. They're like us.
And they weren't Irish, so I guess Gates wasn't connecting to his grandmother that way.
Now, let me rephrase. I should say that it would have been boring ancestry, because looking at my DNA chart is very, very boring.
And I'm going to other people's, right?
That's right.
Mina's been good with the Irish stuff, just to kind of.
Yeah.
He's looking for his Irish, great grandmother, whoever it is. But here's one thing I thought as I watched this, because this was the first Finding Your Roots that PBS used as a telethon kind of deal.
I was going to ask that. So they did that with you guys too.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
It was an hour and a half, and about 40 minutes of it was winning money. Which
Thank goodness for DVRs.
All about supporting.
Yes.
My thought process was that they could have raised a lot of money if they had $1,000 to have Gates look at your family line or something like that. Would you pay it for that brick wall that you can't go through, I would have, in a heartbeat, I'd have been like, doo 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 doo. Yep.
So I'm so glad you said that because I wasn't able to watch it live, so I had to watch it this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm eating lunch, and I'm like, PBS doesn't have commercials. What is this?
Yeah.
And luckily, I had a remote, so I could fast forward to the next part. But I was like,
That's what I did.
I wonder if this was everywhere or if it was just my local TV station doing that. So
It was a smart thing because we, as viewers, want to see more shows like that. So hopefully they were able to raise a good amount of money. I have no clue. They didn't tell us. But that's all I thought about is, man, if they offered so much money for so many hours with him to look at your stuff, people would have paid it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I didn't know there was a book, too, about the season. I'm curious to know.
Oh, see, I fast-forwarded so much I didn't even notice what there was.
So, yeah, there was the full season. What, Jen?
I just saw videos. I didn't see that they had a book.
Yeah, so I paused because I was like, okay, what are they talking about? I might as well look. and it was a set. It was like a 3 DVD set for the entire season and extras. And then there was a book, a companion guide to it for the season.
I do remember that.
And they had the same graphics on the front. So I'm curious to know what what they would have put in the book. Is it just synopsises of the shows? Is it more about the research? Because I don't remember them ever. Now, I was fast forwarding a lot, but I don't remember them actually talking about what the book contained. So,
Right.
bad me. Maybe we'll have to go figure this out.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
So we've been at this, even with our small break, for over 45 minutes. Does anybody have any last thoughts before we close for this evening?
I'm sad to see it go and anxious to see if there's a next, because it's not been said yet, has it?
No, not that I'm aware.
It's usually a couple of months before they tell us whether we're going to go into the next.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that at the end he said, join us next week?
Yes. I did.
Yes.
I don't think this was supposed to be his end.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, huh?
Because he even specifically said, well, we have 3 people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I wonder if this episode was supposed to have been at a different spot in the season.
It's entirely possible. Because I mean, I know when, like, for example, when we booked Cece earlier, she thought the dates were different for when LL Cool J was going to be on. So I think they played with the season a little bit. And that may have just been because of editing. You know, something didn't go right, something went long, something could have been any reason.
Or they had to play with this to make it longer because there wasn't the third, which is why we were telethoned.
Right.
Telethon.
That's right. All right, ladies. Well, if nobody else has anything, thank you so much for joining, and thank you, everyone out there, for putting up with our wandering train of thought conversations and our technical difficulties. And on that note, thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week now that Finding Your Roots is over, but I think we'll continue with the long-lost family and the relative race, see where they go next. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for us, we would love to hear from you. Drop us a line in the comments below. Send us an email at editor@theinDepthGenealogist, or, you know, follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter. Or is it the other way around? I never remember. But anyway, have a great evening, everyone, and I hope you go in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye.